Hey everybody, so I just wanted to talk about something that I did a blog post. It's about do trees still speak? Because I've been seeing a lot of videos of people speaking and interacting with trees, and the trees are interacting back. It's a strange time in the world. We have cats talking, dogs talking, cryptid sightings, birds calling people names. It's a whole lot of weird stuff happening, and I don't think all of it is fake. So I did a blog post that's up on my blog now about trees speaking to people in folklore and legends, and just wondering what happened with that. As a lot of people have gotten closer to nature during the pandemic and afterward, a lot of strange things are happening in people's gardens. There are videos I've seen of people who are just homesteaders and just regular gardeners, people who are not like into sort of cryptid things or any sort of supernatural stuff. Like their channels are just like gardening or like bushcraft or homesteading. It's not like a supernatural paranormal channel. They're even talking about having encounters with fairies or seeing fairies, having Sasquatch problems. A lot of people who live in the rural woods are having this issue, and it's worldwide. It's not just like America. It's not just Appalachia. It is everywhere now, which is insane, but it's a mark of the times. And I actually wanted to cover not just the trees speaking, but just how we used to have these massive trees in America and basically everywhere. I believe that the trees, the petrified trees, there's even a national park in America that, excuse me, there's even a national park in America that has petrified trees. But I believe a lot of the massive old trees, old growth trees that were cut down, that still exist, that were maybe cut down in biblical times or otherwise, if you believe what the Bible says, that they are what are called quote unquote tabletop mountains now, or just those sort of things, or just mountains in general. Some of the mountains are sleeping giants, they're even named sleeping giant, but that's just my beliefs. And I wanted to actually talk about in this video though my experience with regrowing a tree that seemed dead in my yard due to circumstances that were beyond my control, and how I attribute that, along with the old growth forest, that's how they grew so well, which is scientifically proven, the mycelium fungi network. So basically, the fungi network, the mycelium network, is what helps your plants grow. Soil health is very important in growing a garden. Any good gardener will tell you that. Any bad gardener will tell you that as well. And if you've been gardening since the pandemic, basically, like I have, and like a lot of people online have, you will probably come across the videos that bag soil was contaminated. There were batches of that, and it was happening to people all across the country at the same time. I'm not gonna throw out conspiracies that it was a intentional thing, but it was a mighty weird coincidence. And I learned how to retroactively fix my garden from the damage that had been done through phytochemicals in specific plants and pyromediation. Pyromediation is something used in, let's say, like nuclear waste sites like Chernobyl. They would grow sunflowers, and that soaks up the chemicals. That specific plant can do that. And then you just have to dispose of the plant. You can't compost it because the chemicals will just go back into the ground. So I learned my lesson with that, and then I brought back manure. It was cow manure. Obviously, it wasn't composted correctly, and I didn't know about, oh, what is it? I don't know if it's glyphosate, is it, or Roundup? It's a lot of chemicals that are still being sold and sprayed on everything. I didn't know that the cows can just graze on. That's what it is. They can just stand on that, and that will basically screw up your garden. I didn't know that. I didn't know that the cows had bacteria in their poop, which I probably should have known. But again, it was my early stages of gardening. I didn't know as much as I know now. Not saying I know everything, but I know more than I did. What is it? Almost 5 years ago now. And I didn't know that you had to compost things at a certain temperature to kill the bacteria, or if it's poorly composted, it will kill your plants. So that's what happened one year. I had a lot of fungi growing, and it basically killed everything in the pool where I placed the cow manure, and I never brought it again. A lot of people have been having trouble with black cow anyway. I didn't buy black cow, I wanted to, but it wasn't available. But the formula's changed since the pandemic, as has peat moss. It's been a lot of garbage in peat moss. I myself have peat moss and coconut coir blocks. I myself have experienced that. So, I don't buy manure. Eventually, I do want chickens, so I'll have my own manure, and I'll have my own little composting machines and have eggs. But I basically do Comfrey fertilizer. I invested in Comfrey. I think I brought 2 roots before the first time. One died, and I kept multiplying the one I had left. And then I ordered 5 roots of regular Comfrey, original Comfrey. I accidentally got sent the blocking version, and I wrote the website about it. It's a good website. It's strictlymedicinals.com, and they were nice enough to send me a replacement of what I originally ordered. So I ended up with 10 uh, new roots of comfrey on top of what I was multiplying. So needless to say, I now have quite a bit of comfrey plants growing in my yard, and it's improved my soil organically. And I use that mainly to fertilize my plants now. And I also make comfrey feed from rainwater, and I put a little bit of borage in it this year because I had a lot of borage grow. But yeah, I don't use the synthetic fertilizers. I do have like blood meal, bone meal from a specific brand that I trust. I don't know if the brand is still good anymore because I haven't bought the fertilizer in like 2, 3 years now. But I have chicken manure as well, and that manure is totally composted. It's 100% fine. It's not burning my plants. It's not killing my plants. I trust it. Again, I just don't. And it's really expensive now anyway, I think. But I don't. I haven't used it anymore. But basically, that is what phytomediation is. And phytomediation is something that can help restore the connection between trees, uh, plants, along with companion planting and planting native plants. That's something that can restore the fungi network in your soil and bring your soil back to life. So, with my issues, I have a lot of, well, had, it's still quite a few. I'm getting rid of them still. It's a process, it's not an overnight thing. And plus, there's some things that are blocking me from doing everything I want right now. I'm not going to get into that. It's kind of beyond my control at this current time. But basically, I had a lot of Japanese knotweed in my yard. It's almost all eradicated at this point. Last year, I just kind of went scorched earth and was literally just digging up oh gosh, the roots that were like as big as and wide as I am or was. I was a little heavier last year. I lost a considerable amount of weight just gardening in general over these past 4 or 5 years. But even now, so I'm a lot smaller than I was when I started. My stamina's better. But I eradicated the knotweed, and knotweed thrives in acidic soil, and it has really deep tap roots. So I figured just studying about pyromediation as well, and phytochemicals. Phytochemicals are specific chemicals that certain plants let off. I used Comfrey to try to combat the knotweed, and it would make the acidic soil kind of neutral. It would pull up the nutrients that the knotweed was suppressing due to its kind of like mass planting and mass self-seeding of just blocking out all native plants. I planted marigolds, which I use the specific variety, one of the Mexican varieties that are native to America here. If I use annuals, I try to use native plants for the most part, and I try to get native plants to my specific region, which is New York. I do, I mean, I know comfrey and borage are not native to America. The specific varieties I'm using are not native, although we do have native comfrey and borage as well. But that, I did track it down. It's kind of hard finding native plants for some reason. But I did track down, and I am going to buy the seeds soon whenever I get enough money or they go on sale. And I'll have that in the yard as well. But basically, I use uh, the Mexican sunflower. I use the Mexican marigold, Mexican sunflower, the Tithonia divertisa. I probably mispronounced that, but it's the yellow flower, the one that grows from the cutting, not the red one. Even though I did plant the red one too, it just didn't come up. But I used those things in tandem, and basically the knotweed has been suppressed, and I'm seeing native plants come back. And last year I was nurturing the pokey weeds that came up, and the seeds I saved and I scattered. So I have pokey weeds this year. I have pigweed, which is a form of amaranth, and I have some nightshade, which isn't really native, but there are other native plants coming up. There's a lot of dandelions, which is a marker of good soil where those dandelions grow. And plus, if your soil isn't contaminated, you can dig up those roots and roast them and have a nice coffee if the plant is 2 years older or more. And I just want to talk about the fact that the mycelium is what facilitates all this. It's what makes your soil healthy, and the plants in turn actually call and bring in the good bugs, and that restores an ecosystem, which brings back birds if you don't have any birds, and butterflies and bees, and specific plants call to specific species. So that's why a lot of people say specifically plant native plants, because if you don't, it's not going to bring back the native species that that plant specifically needs. And because I'm not verified yet on YouTube on this channel, I can't go over 15 minutes, and I'm kind of creeping into almost 15 minutes. So I just want to talk about basically that I've had success bringing back a dormant tree that was basically dead, and I have eradicated Japanese knotweed from my yard almost completely by using pyromediation, am I saying that right? Yeah, phytomediation techniques, using marigolds and Mexican sunflower and borage and comfrey. But if you have any experience with this, or if you have any stories you'd like to share in the comment section below, feel free to leave it. I'd like to grow a community where we can all share tips about gardening and other things. And I will see you guys again soon. Bye bye.